Hello and welcome to the Burn KC ScorchCast. I am your host, Alex Blackburn, here to bring you the KC Sports News. Going to be a quick one today because there is a storm brewing outside and I have a meeting at 8. I am currently recording this at 6:35. You can imagine I kind of need to book it here. But thankfully, we don't have a ton to talk about. We will be going over some Chiefs draft stuff as well as local college draft stuff, which includes just going over the picks, giving a grade, etc., and just kind of going over what it means for each program to have the guys that were drafted. Got a little bit of Royals news, not a ton. I mean, honestly, nothing to fill a whole segment. Really, the only things that are gonna fill whole segments today are Chiefs and college football, because and they're in the off season, which is crazy. I know that kind of Royals are definitely on a bit of a skid, so we'll go into that a little bit. Casey Current is still undefeated, which is pretty cool, so we might go into that a little bit more as well. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot to talk about, so let's just jump right in. I kind of want to give a little bit of a debriefing. First and foremost, I want to apologize for the lack of articles last week. I mean, I had college football dogs articles, but that's kind of what I wanted to get into. Overall, I'm kind of evaluating what kind of articles are going to be put out on the Burn KC. Unfortunately, with my position as Big 12 lead national columnist, a lot of my attention has gone to there. And a lot of my attention to here has kind of faltered. So for that, I sincerely apologize. I'm going to do my best to get out articles regarding the Royals, regarding Sporting KC, regarding college basketball, regarding the Current, regarding the Blues, as I can. But I appreciate y'all bearing with me as I try and kind of figure out this adjustment. Again, I'm writing a lot more for college football dogs, so I definitely have to focus on that. That is the paid position after all. This, again, is kind of a passion project until further notice. So it's kind of what you see is what you get. I'm definitely going to do the work, though, to try and make this a viable channel still and make this something that will bring KC Sports News not only in football but in baseball, basketball, soccer, rugby, just all the Kansas City sports. I truly want to do my best to do that for you. It just may take some feeling out. So again, thank you for bearing with me here, and let's just get started. All right, let's start with the Chiefs first because obviously the NFL draft was this past weekend. A lot of news coming out of the Chiefs camp in regard to who was picked, what kind of trades happened, and just overall general draft news. So let's just jump right into it. The NFL draft was held this past weekend, as I said previously, April 20. I believe it started on the 25th. No, 26th. No, 25th. 25th. Sorry. April 25th through the 27th. And included some pretty big names out of college football. But the Chiefs were in a peculiar spot. They had the last pick of the first round because they're Super Bowl champs. And it was kind of a weird situation because they could have gone multiple different ways with their pick. One of the ways that they could have gone was they could have drafted a tackle. The tackle position Wasn't too terribly deep this draft. There were a few available, but not too many in the first round that were like first round talents. Um, so that was kind of a, we would be kind of reaching, the Chiefs would be kind of reaching for a guy at that point. Second option was to just trade out or trade up. I guess those are two options, but we'll just group them together because it's a trade. Um, the trading out would mean that they would trade out of the first round and into the second, or just anywhere really, and just have more later round picks. Could have worked decently, but I think that this draft was loaded with talent, but not quite that loaded with talent to where trading out makes sense, which is why I didn't really understand why the Bills did it. If you caught me on Draft Dogs this past week, you could see my confusion as to why the Bills did that. Um, but this leads me to my next point, which is what the Chiefs actually did. They drafted a wide receiver. But not only did they draft a wide receiver, they traded up for a wide receiver with the Buffalo Bills, who proceeded to trade them for the 28th pick and trade back to the 32nd pick and eventually out of the first round entirely. Some galaxy brain moves there by the Buffalo Bills. Um, as far as I know, I mean it worked out. I guess they got who they wanted, as far as I know. But the Chiefs also got who they wanted. They got wide receiver Xavier Worthy out of Texas. Xavier Worthy, if you don't already know, is incredibly fast. He ran a combine record 4.22 at this past 40, or excuse me, at this past NFL combine, um, which is pretty much right on par with the fastest athletes in the world. I mean, that's Usain Bolt level speed. I mean, that's quick. Um, but for reference, I think Tyreek Hill ran like a 4.33, which is also ludicrous. But I mean, 4.22 is absolutely absurd. Um, No, that was a plane. Sorry. I thought I heard a tornado siren for a second, and I was like, oh, jeez, I gotta end this. Um, but uh, in the second round, the Chiefs also had some decisions to make because a lot of people thought that their guy, who is named Kingsley Sumataya, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, out of BYU, he's a tackle or formerly a tackle for the BYU Cougars, and was projected to go in the early second round. Well, problem was Chiefs didn't draft until pick number 64, which was the last pick of the second round. They traded up exactly one spot to get Kingsley. One spot. And they got their man. Kingsley Sumataya is a massive human being, standing at 6'5", 326, which, if you've seen him move as well, I mean, it seemed like this draft was really all about speed for the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, Kingsley Sumataya, relatively speaking at least, was fast for an NFL tackle. He ran a 5.0340, but his playing speed is crazy. Like, he works his way up to the second level really, really fast. He's great with footwork. His pass pro is really, really good. Um, and I know that's got Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes salivating. Uh, for the next pick, the Chiefs didn't draft in round 3. They had their next pick in round 4. Chiefs drafted a tight end, Jared Wiley. Jared Wiley is expected to be the next Travis Kelsey. Um, and I think we could kind of tell from the way the ensuing days happened, um, that this was the Chiefs' plan all along, was to go grab Wiley or go grab someone in those mid to late rounds that could be developed into the next Travis Kelsey. And after watching a bunch of Wiley's tape, I can completely see why they picked him up. He plays exactly like Travis Kelsey plays. It's uncanny. He's a little slower. He's a little bit less quick off the release. Um, but he's got the catching skills. He's got the height and weight to just throw around. I mean, he is an NFL tight end. Um, and if he's developed correctly, he could be a superstar. He really could. He really could replace Travis Kelsey. Um, this being said, Kelsey was extended through 2025 with this past or with yesterday's um, contract extension. So they're giving him a little bit of time to develop. He'll see the field, but um, I fully expect Jared Wiley to be the guy once Travis Kelsey is gone. So that again was their plan all along. Then the Chiefs kind of went an interesting route here because they needed linebacker and defensive line help. Those were really the only two ways to go with this next pick. If you were basing it strictly on needs, but the Chiefs went out and got a safety, Jaden Hicks from Washington State, um, because of the value that he had. Jaden Hicks was projected as a second round safety, and many people were calling him the best safety in this class. The Chiefs simply couldn't pass that up, especially with losing secondary help in Mike Edwards and L'Jarius Sneed. My only issue with the pick is, I mean, you don't have a defensive lineman or a linebacker yet. And that continued to be the trend. And this is kind of where I kind of fell out of love with this Chiefs draft and simply just was like, yeah, this is a good draft. It's not great, but it's good. Um, Chiefs drafted next. Let me see here. Going to my article. Um, Chiefs drafted Hunter Norzad, who was a center at Penn State. This is just adding offensive line depth. I mean, that's really all this is. Um, Norzad played everywhere on the Penn State offensive line. He's expected to be the Nick Allegretti replacement. Um, at its surface, this was a bit of a confusing pick because, I mean, all signs point to the Chiefs keeping Creed Humphrey long term. I can almost guarantee you they're going to extend the best center in the NFL. I know he's coming up on a contract year and everything, but I mean, Norzad is not going. Norzad is not being picked to replace Creed Humphrey. They would have selected a center higher, and there would have been signs that pointed to them selecting a center. Um, I think Norzad is just the Nick Allegretti replacement, and the more I think about it, the more this is a solid pick. And then they get to round 6. They draft Kamal Hadden out of Tennessee, which is a good pick, I think. Again, you add more depth at secondary. I kind of saw where the Chiefs were going once we hit this pick. I had them picking up Kamal Hadden in the mock drafts that I had. Um, so this pick just makes sense. I mean, they're adding depth for um sorry. They're adding depth is essentially what this was about. Um And honestly, this is depth with promise, especially with this pick. Kamal Hadden, he was laden with injuries throughout his college career, unfortunately. So that's something that they'll have to vet. But if he can stay healthy, I mean, he nabbed 6 interceptions and 5.5 sacks with his 3 year, granted injury laden 3 year, but 3 year career with the Tennessee Volunteers. He's an SEC defensive back. He's got the talent to be really, really good in the NFL, and he's a peak Steve Spagnuolo back. Um, his ability to create edge pressure, he's got sticky man coverage, he's got great ball tracking ability, and just has a nose for the ball. He's very similar to L'Jarius Sneed, not quite L'Jarius Sneed, but definitely has those tangibles at least for sure. And then finally, with the last pick, again, just adding adding offensive line depth. CJ Hansen out of Holy Cross. He was a big FCS guy for this draft. Not a whole lot of guys from the FCS get drafted, but CJ Hansen is definitely deserving. He's got a lot of potential. Good size for an FCS guy. And if he's developed, if he's able to be eager and able to be a fast learner, I think he could easily slot his way onto the offensive line somewhere. I don't think he's going to start, but he's definitely there for a depth pick. Um, and then as far as the undrafted free agents go, I mean, there's a huge list here. The Chiefs are inviting a lot of people to this. Um, to their rookie mini camp and are signing a lot of UDFA deals. But some highlights are Phillip Brooks from Kansas State, the wide receiver return man. We've got Miles Battle, who's a 6'4" corner. I can't believe he didn't get picked. I mean, that's crazy to me. He's got to have like some sort of speed issue or something because he's a massive guy who's really physical and was really good for Utah. Um, you've got, let's see here. Carson Steele was another one that I wanted to talk about. Carson Steele is very similar to Kyle Jusic in the way that he was utilized at UCLA. He's listed as a running back, but plays more like a fullback. I mean, just a big bodied, bruising dude who can block really well. But also on the same token, like I said, he's very comparable to Kyle Jusic of the 49ers in that he can receive the ball on screens, on short patterns, and just take it, and is really good downfield in the pass play in pass plays. So I'm intrigued to see if he will get involved in some way, shape, or form should he make the team. Which I think he can. I mean, he was really good for UCLA. I think that is a solid UDFA pickup. Another one, and this will be kind of the last one that I talk about. They picked up a host of linebackers, but I think the guy that has the best chance at making it is the guy from Linebacker University, Penn State, and that's Curtis Jacobs. Curtis Jacobs is a physical freak. He's got a lot of really good intangibles that you like to see out of a linebacker. Very high motor, pretty good in coverage overall. Can is a fairly sure tackler. And I'm intrigued that he didn't get picked up either in the draft. There was a lot of talent in this NFL draft, and overall, I think the Chiefs did a really good job at picking up guys um, in the draft, but also picking up UDFA guys as well. I gave their draft a B plus because I mean there were some things that I didn't love about this draft, but overall this was a solid draft. So I mean, I think there's a ton of promise here with these guys that are coming onto the Chiefs. Um, it's gonna be another big year. I feel like they're in. These rookies are going to help. They're going to help immensely. And I think a lot of those UDFAs you're going to see on, if not the Chiefs roster, an NFL roster for sure. So overall, very good. Very, very good. Let's go ahead and go into some college football. Alrighty. So let's get into some college football now, and just go over those draft picks. Um, let's start out with, unfortunately, the easier one. Kansas Jayhawks had two players selected in the NFL draft. Or excuse me, let's start with the one that was picked earliest. Dominic Pooney was the highest picked, or excuse me, the highest drafted player for the Kansas Jayhawks since Aqib Talib back in 2008, who was drafted 20th overall. Um, and you can see why. Dominic Pooney, I mean, he was one of the most versatile guard, or excuse me, yeah, versatile offensive linemen, because he doesn't really have a position, but he's one of the most versatile offensive linemen in this draft, and is just a mauler of a player. I mean, he is incredibly physical. His pass blocking ability got really, really, I mean, it improved immensely while he was at Kansas, to the point of where last year he didn't allow a single sack or pressure. But not only that, his run blocking is phenomenal. I mean, he can get downfield, get into the second level, and just knock dudes over. I mean, he is very good. Um, Now he's a little slower, so I think that's kind of what turned teams off of him. He kind of fell a little bit. Where I had him, he was a late second round, early third type of guy, but he fell to the late second, which I mean, or excuse me, late third. I mean, yeah, I don't know. This draft was weird because you had so many guys that you're just like, wow, that guy's absolutely going to get drafted. I mean, you look at, a guy like Brendan Rice, who was projected in the fourth, fifth round, getting drafted in the late sixth. That he's the son of Jerry Rice. I mean, by name alone, I'm surprised nobody picked him up in the middle rounds. Um, but back to the point. Um, kind of, you get what I mean. Uh, Dominic Pooney is going to make the 49ers very happy. I think he'll have to sit a year in order to kind of build some experience and just kind of feel out where he's going to end up on this 49er offensive line. But there's a lot of guys on contract years along that line. There's a lot of guys that are getting older that are not, what they used to be. So the I think he has a great chance at filling in a starting role with the 49ers at some point. He's going to have to develop. He's going to have to get a little faster. His hip techniques are going to have to be a little bit more in tune. But overall, I think the 49ers got a great player in Dominic Purdy. I think the Chicago Bears, got a great player in Austin Booker as well. Austin Booker, if you don't know, was the Big 12 Defensive Newcomer of the Year last year. He tied the Big 12 lead with 8 sacks and just was a force on the Kansas defensive line. I mean, his bull rushing ability was great. Even against guys that were bigger than him, he was way too quick to be kept inside. I mean, he immediately flashed outside and covered that C gap with great ability. And just, I mean, he was everywhere for that Kansas defense. He was part of the reason why they improved so much. In fact, a huge reason why they improved so much. Because if you remember last year, I mean, the Kansas defense ranked, I think, 93rd in the NCAA, and they moved all the way up to this year being like 51st or 52nd. So this is I mean, Austin Booker made a huge difference in his 1 year at Kansas, and he's going to make a huge difference for the Chicago Bears defense. He's probably got a year or two to learn under Montez Sweat, who is one of the best edge rushers in the NFL I mean, this year. Um, but I think he's got a good chance to start as well at some point. He'll probably be a rotational guy for a bit, but I think he does play for the Bears in one capacity or another. Kansas had also had a bunch of undrafted free agents. A bunch of them were picked up by the Colts. If you don't already know, Chris Ballard is the father of Kansas backup quarterback Cole Ballard, and he picked up a bunch of Kansas guys like Jason Bean. Craig Young was picked up by them, and he invited quite a few of them out to mini camp as well. So he was really in tune with the Kansas Jayhawks that were coming out of this draft. And I think he picked up some good ones. I think Jason Bean could really be utilized. We may see a two quarterback system from the Indianapolis Colts this year with Jason Bean and Anthony Richardson. I mean, that is Jason Bean, Anthony Richardson, and I think Jonathan Taylor's still with them this year. We'll see. I actually, yeah, he is because I think he signed an extension if I remember right. Um, that's a crazy backfield. So I'm intrigued to see what they could come up with should Jason B make the team. So um, other than that, Kansas is yeah, that's pretty much it for them. Uh, Kansas State, though, had a few guys drafted. Let me pull that up real quick. Oh, draft. Apologies. Let's see here. So, Kansas State had four players selected in the NFL draft. We're kind of doing this in a specific order here. Ben Sinnott was the first guy off the board for the Wildcats. Sinnott, I mean, he's one of the best tight ends in the Big 12 and one of the best in the country. I mean, he was so versatile. I mean, he was used in the backfield. He was used on shorter routes. He was used just anywhere that they could fit him. And he was a great blocker. He's got just a ton of skill, and he's a former walk-on, which is even crazier. He was picked up by the Washington Commanders, though. He was all conference at fullback in 22 and 23, as well as tight end, which again is just absolutely bonkers. I mean, he was one of the more underrated players in this draft, in my opinion. I mean, watching him play at Kansas State, watching him play against my Kansas Jayhawks, um, just unreal skill. I mean, props to Sinnott to working his way up here. I think he's an immediate starter for the Commanders. I can't even think of who they have in their tight end room right now, to be honest with you. So I think he's a plug and play guy. Um, and potentially he's the same for Cooper Beebe here too. He was drafted by the Cowboys, number 73 overall. Um, he was the first Kansas State offensive lineman taken since Dalton Reisner back in 2019. And he was a first team All American, Big 12 Offensive Lineman of the Year the past two seasons. I mean, dude is a force. And I am baffled that he went this late, to be real with you. I mean, he looked so good at Kansas State. I know I'm glazing Kansas State real hard here because I mean, there's a lot of really underrated talent with this team. Um, and kind of the same with Katie with Kansas, but I mean, BB and Sinnott, they're huge reasons why the Wildcats were good last year as well as 2 years ago. I mean, they're two guys that just carried that offense to victory. So props to them. I think BB could definitely be a plug and play starter. Um, I'm trying to think of who all is on that Cowboy offensive line at the moment. And I can't think of it right now. So I think he's got a good shot. Um, Whoever wrote this article counted wrong because and okay. Kansas State had three players, not four. Um, yeah, I thought I was reading that wrong. I was just like, I don't remember a fourth guy, but I do remember three. KT Leviston, though, was the final Wildcat selected in the seventh round by the Los Angeles Rams. Mm, he was almost Mr. Irrelevant. He's probably going to be a rotational guy, if anything. Um, with some development, he could probably be a starter. Um, but I mean that Los Angeles line is fairly solid, if I remember right. They're aging for sure, but they've got a lot of young talent backing them up. Some notable undrafted free agents: Khalid Duke, Christian Duffy, Hayden Gillum, and Philip Brooks, as was mentioned earlier in the Chiefs segment. Okay, now we get to the also another fun thing. Running back John Kelly committed to Kansas football. Kelly is a 2025 guy out of Cypress Christian School and is listed as the fourth commitment of the 2025 class. Um, Sorry, I'm just reading this now because this is breaking news. Um, he's a three-star guy. So three-star 2025 running back. John Kelly committed to Kansas football just now. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. And ooh, yeah, there are some tornadoes out there, guys. So stay safe. I yeah, I'm looking this over now, and there's quite a few of them. So if you're in that area, if you hear sirens going off, please take shelter. I know this is probably too late of a warning now, but um, if it's still going on by the time this is up, please stay safe out there, and I hope that y'all are staying well. Finally, for Missouri, though, Missouri, 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 Mizzou, those guys from the state out east that I just so happened to be born in. Missouri had six players drafted in the NFL draft. That included defensive tackle Darius Robinson, corner Ennis Rakestraw Jr., linebacker Tyron Hopper, cornerback Chris Abrams-Drain, offensive tackle Javon Foster, and offensive tackle J.C. Carles. Some undrafted free agents of note, running back Cody Schrader, who absolutely should have been drafted, and I'm baffled that he didn't. But I think he's got a great shot with the 49ers. They don't have that much running back depth anymore. So I think he's got a really good shot at potentially doing something with them. Sticker kicker, Harrison Mevis, signed with the Carolina Panthers. And then just a few others there. But let me see here. So Darius Robinson went to the Cardinals. Ennis Rakestraw Jr. went to the Lions. Tyron Hopper went to the Packers. I think Hopper's definitely gonna start for them. They're running kind of thin at linebacker now. Ennis Rakestraw also has a chance at starting. The Lions secondary is kind of thinning out as well with Gardner Johnson gone. Darius Robinson, I think he's got a pretty good chance at being a plug and play starter when you're a first round pick for the Arizona Cardinals. um, so expect him to see some playing time. Javon Foster went to the Jacksonville Jaguars at round 4. Um, he's a tackle. I think he'll probably sit a year and then start. I think he'll start at some point. Not this year though. I don't think. I think they have one guy ahead of him. Um, with Travis Etienne, that's a pretty good pick. Abrams Drain went to the Denver Donkeys slash Broncos. Unfortunately, Jaden Carlise was a safety, by the way. I accidentally called him an offensive lineman earlier. Those are two very big differences, but he was the final Tiger selected in round 5. So the Tigers had a great draft. Um, and guys that, you know, for the Tigers, this was a great year for them. I mean, Cotton Bowl winners, you had a lot of really good upperclassmen, as well as guys that are back on that offense this year. I think the Tigers have a great shot at repeating what they did last year. A little bit weaker on defense with Abrams Drain, Rakestraw, and Foster all gone, and Carlise as well. Um, but I mean, overall, solid pickups for the NFL draft for the Tigers. But I mean, they still look really, really strong, especially with that transfer class. I mean, they're going to be dangerous this year once again. Um, so we're gonna do things a little different because I can't really think of anything that's like full segment worthy for any other topics. We're kind of just gonna do a little bit of a lightning round for this next part of the ScorchCast. I may as well just call this a draft special, to be honest with you. Yeah, because I never got to do one because I was on Draft Dogs the night of the draft and then up at my dad's for the rest of it. So, um, yeah, let's just call this a draft special. Let's just call this a draft special. But we will dive in a little bit on some other topics here in just a moment. Let's do that. Let's talk about some Royals, soccer, and the Blues, shall we? And some college basketball as well, a little bit, not a ton. All right, jumping into some other sports news here. Like I said in the previous segment, this is kind of just going to be a draft special. Don't really have a whole lot of news in regard to the Royals, college basketball, soccer, or rugby. Um, the Royals are on kind of a skid right now. They are definitely showing that they're kind of a team that, when the midseason kind of rolls around, the I don't want to say they fall off a cliff, but I think we've seen this story from the Royals before, and I don't know about you, but I've never really liked the ending. So I'm hoping that they can get it together. The main issue for the Royals right now is the fact that they cannot find wins against teams above 500. That's a huge issue if you want to be a playoff team. Um, you can beat up on the little guys all you want, but come playoff time, you're going to be playing teams that are equal or above your level and equal or above your record. So beating those teams now does matter. And if you can't beat them now, what makes you think that you can beat them come playoff time? Uh, the Royals need to figure it out, essentially. Offensively, they're doing fine. It's kind of streaky a little bit. I mean, they've definitely slowed down since, beating teams like 11-2 and stuff. Um, but nonetheless, you gotta support the pitching, man. I mean, starting pitching has still been on a tear for the Royals, and the relief pitching and the offense has just kind of been okay to, the offense has been pretty good at times, but I mean, the relief pitching needs to figure it out. I mean, they truly do. When James MacArthur is your best closer this year, that's a problem. The Royals need to find a guy that can close games out. The Royals need to find a guy that can pitch those middle to late innings. And they haven't yet. And I think that's a huge issue for them. And I think they need to figure it out now before they hit the summertime, because the summertime are when games start to really, really matter, especially once you get closer to the All-Star break. Um, and they just need to find relievers. I mean, they really do. Um, because the offense is doing decently. They're not spectacular. I think they could do a little better, but they've been doing decently and they've been putting up runs. And starting pitching has just carried the weight so far, and that's a problem for the Royals. Um, I can't believe starting pitching is carrying the Royals right now. That just seems so foreign, but it is, and here we are. The Royals are still sitting in second place. I think they're still half a game up on the Tigers. Yes. Yeah, no, they're still half a game up on the Tigers. They lost the wild card spot though, I believe, to the Orioles. No. No, no, no. No, no. They're battling it out with the Tigers right now for that wild card spot. And obviously, it's the end of April. So wild card spots don't mean a ton, but still cause a little bit of cause for concern in the early season for the Royals. As for college basketball, transfer portal's hitting hard. Mark Mitchell officially committed to the Tigers and signed with the Missouri Tigers yesterday. So Duke transfer for the Missouri Tigers, that's huge. Caleb Francois, who was a former Missouri Tiger, committed to Arizona, so he's gone. But Mark Mitchell will definitely help bolster that team and hopefully make them better for the upcoming year. Kansas is still hot on the trail of a few recruits. Um, I don't. We did see a recruit leave after Rylan Griffin signed with the Kansas Jayhawks. Alabama transfer Rylan Griffin came on for the Kansas Jayhawks. And then this is going to be really hard to pronounce, but let me look it up real quick. Le, LeBaron Philon. I don't know why I struggle with that, but LeBaron Philon committed to essentially what happened with the Kansas Jayhawks was LeBaron Philon committed to Alabama and former Alabama player Rylan Griffin committed to Kansas. So they did a trade-off of sorts. Um, and I'm okay with it as a Kansas Jayhawks guy. I'm okay with it. I'd rather have that proven experience over a freshman that may or may not play. I think Griffin definitely has a good chance, a good chance to the start for the Jayhawks. So solid pickup there. Finally, with the with Kansas State, the portal giveth and the portal taketh away. With Kansas State, Dede Ames is gone. Um, though they did pick up a player from Arkansas that I cannot remember the name of. It's Bay something. Give me just a second. Oh goodness. Oh wow, Arthur Kaluma entered the transfer portal too? Goodness gracious, I didn't see that. That's not great. Oh, by the way, in other college football news that I completely missed, apologies. Again, I'm trying to hurry this along, and I apologize. I really hoped that I would have a little bit more focus, but I had to do a few things after work. So forgive me. But Dylan Edwards, former Colorado running back, former Colorado leading rusher, committed to the Kansas State Wildcats for football. For football. And they, oh, what is his name? Okay, they did land Villanova transfer Brandon Housen, so I know that one for sure. Brandon Housen's pretty good too, so that's a good pickup. Where is this Arkansas kid? Bay Fall. There we go. I knew it was something easy. Bay Fall, former Arkansas big man, is probably going to be that Arthur Kaluma replacement, while Brandon Housen replaces Dede Ames. I think that is an upgrade for the Wildcats, to be honest. Ames is pretty good. He's just not good enough, I think, to start for a Power Five team. But he'll be a good six man somewhere for sure. And then other than that, that's it for college basketball. Soccer wise, Kansas City Current remains undefeated, remains top of the table, remains offensively a powerhouse, and they're sitting pretty in the title chase. So that's huge. And finally, for your final little piece of news here, as it approaches 7:48. Kansas City Blues are starting sevens practice. Kansas City Blues start sevens practice next week, May 7th, a week from now. If you're interested in continuing an athletic career, if you're interested in helping a team get to national competition, if you're interested in just getting out and having fun with, a group of dudes, if you are a dude yourself, of course, come on out and play with the Kansas City Blues. We'll get you in shape. You'll have fun. Sevens, even for a big boy like me, is a blast. So come on out, have a great time, and get acquainted with some rugby. Should be a fun one. We got a lot of talent this year, and a lot of speed. So I'm excited for this seventh season. Anyway, that's our show. Thank you so much for joining. This is the Burn KC signing off. Like I said, I will keep you guys updated on what this channel will look like going forward. Again, got to do some evaluation and some time crunching. And I will keep you guys updated, but I really hope that I can continue this in full force and not have to take a step back. I really, really do. But this has been the Burn KC signing off. Have a great night.